Well, hello and welcome to a new Jimbo's Driveway. Today we are going to be doing a first proper road test of the car since I got it back from SE Jags a few weeks ago. And as well as that, I thought I would go over some of the exterior changes that have been made to the car and have a general sort of like look around it, because we have made some changes. And I also wanted to hark back to some comments I made in earlier videos as well. As well as that, what we're also going to do is have a look at some of the financial aspects of owning this XJS V12, because I've had the car almost 2 years now, so I've had it long enough to sort of appreciate what we could call like the real ownership experience, and that includes the maintenance and the financial aspects of it as well. And I think some of you might be quite surprised, particularly as in my first video I explained how I believe this car to be, if well maintained, in good condition, quite low overhead to maintain. But we'll discuss that in a bit more detail very soon. So, taking a look around the outside of the car, the changes that have been made fundamentally are the wheels, which are 16-inch alloy wheels from another Jaguar. They're from an XJ40 model. I've had them refurbished, and I chose particularly this shade of gold with the diamond cut polish rim because I thought it would suit this car very well. And it seemed like a bit of a risk at the time because when I was choosing it, I didn't have the car with me, but I'm very, very pleased with the outcome. I think these wheels suit the car very, very well. And it brings me on to another point. In one of my first videos, maybe my first video, which if you haven't seen already, I'll put a link up to up there right now. But in there I discussed some things I'd like to do with the car as I own it. And one of the things that I considered was changing the bright work, i.e. the chrome on the bumpers and around the windows. And you know, I was thinking about blacking it out and making it look like an XJRS. But in fact, now that I've got the wheels on with the polished lip, and now that we've painted the front grille and the headlight surrounds, actually I think that makes a real difference. Actually sets off the car, and the bright work helps do that and pull it all together. So I'm actually really happy with it at the moment, and I don't foresee me changing anything. I don't think I'm going to go along the route of doing everything out, blacking out the chrome, or murdered out as they call it in some circles. I'm going to leave it as it is because now I think it looks like a period car with a few minor enhancements. And I really, everywhere you take this car, it seems to be a real head turner, and people say, wow, what a lovely car and what have you. I think if I was to go down the route of doing more and more to it, it might actually spoil it, and I don't think it would look as kind of well-rounded as it does in its look now. I think the general look and the stance of the car with its suspension set as it is, it gives the car a real purposeful look. I think it's stunning. If we take a look under the bonnet now, we can see that it looks much tidier under there, and it's just altogether looks a lot better, a lot cleaner, a lot smarter. And part of that is the fact that it's got new leads, new injectors, new pipe work, new fuel regulators. Everything's had a bit of a spruce up. Things have been painted or cleaned, what have you. The distributor's been rebuilt, and all of those things, as much as they make it look much tidier and presentable under the bonnet, it also gives me a lot more confidence in the fact that the mechanicals are up to a very good scratch, and it means this car is going to be reliable and work well for me. We hope for some time into the future. Well, from the inside perspective, the interior of the car, nothing has really changed much. As I've gone over this before, the interior is adequate, but I do think it could do with some tidying up. But it is all cosmetic stuff, so for now I'm just going to have to live with it, and that's something that I'm going to do over the longer term. The seats, I would really like to recondition the seats. I'm hoping to be able to see if I can get these seat covers re-stitched, because the leather is actually, although it's a bit dry and it could do with some food and some regeneration, I think the leather would come back really nice if it was brought up. Freshen it up. The driver's seat is a little lacking in support. I think the foam's gone, so again, over the winter I'm going to see if I can get something done with this seat, because it's okay to sit in, but it's not the most comfortable on a longer trip. It could do with a bit more support, so I'm going to see if I can get that sorted out so that we can actually use the car next year for some longer trips and it's not ruining my spine. So another aspect that I think we should discuss now is the cost of ownership of a Jaguar XJS V12. I've had the car almost 2 years now. I bought it in November 2019. It's now November 21. Of course, we've had the pandemic in that time, and so to some degree my usage of the car may be slightly limited, but nevertheless, in between everything that's been going on, I have been getting out and using the car, and it has presented itself with some challenges that we've had to address, most recently documented over videos going back sort of like this year. I'll post a link up to where we started the journey on taking this in for some running issues, and then you may want to follow the story through from there to where we are now. Anyway, in terms of running costs, I've drawn up this little report here, which shows us enabled me to get my head out the sand, for want of a better word, and actually put down exactly what the costs have been, including the purchase of the car initially a couple of years ago, and I'll just run through these now for you. The cost of the vehicle: I paid £10,000 for this car 2 years ago, and you know, I felt that was a good price, considering the overall condition of the car and the fact that it recently had the manual gearbox conversion done, which the parts and the labour alone would probably stretch to £6,000 to £8,000 possibly for that work. In also shortly before I bought the car, in a recent couple of years before then, had a full stainless steel exhaust system from AJ6 Engineering, and an enhanced ECU which comes to the tune of about £1,200 or so, and it had a full gas coilover suspension set, which was part of an XJ Restorations handling kit. For the insurance cost for this vehicle is around about £200 a year. I could possibly look to get that a bit cheaper. I'll be honest, I haven't done a ton of research in it. A couple £100 didn't seem a lot of money to insure this car for, so I just went for it. But that might be something I can look at. But it's been around that the last 2 years. Road tax is also around about £25 a month for this car. You know, if we talk about when I first purchased the car, of course I had to tax it, insure it, and travel expenses, because I had to go to Scotland and pick it up. So all told, we're looking at about £10,500 just under, in order to acquire the car. So one of the first things I had done in December 19 was I had a Thatcham alarm and immobiliser fitted. At the same time, took the car into my friends at BMR in Dartford, and to get them to give the car a good once over, put it up on the ramp, have a look around it for me. It then in January developed a non-start issue. That turned out to be a bad earth, but the investigative work and the resolution, as well as getting the car recovered, etc., that all cost me £425 or thereabouts. That was in Jan 20, so already we're into, you know, and then the power steering pump needed remedying. I had to buy a second-hand pump and get that fitted again by BMR, so we're already into the thick end of about £1,000 worth, and that was by February 20. After that, I then took the car to SE Jags, but that was in August of 2020, when it had a kind of a whirring noise coming from the front end of the engine, which turned out to be the water pump. Which also then we also discovered that the alternator was the incorrect alternator. It was a Vauxhall Cavalier, so we had that changed for a refurbished Jaguar XJS alternator, the correct one. We had the viscous fan done as well, but all told, you know, that was a thick end of £1,000 itself. Then it was MOT and road tax again within that year, brings us to about nearly £2,300. So from October 2020 to 21, which brings us right up to date now, this is kind of where things got a little bit steeper in terms of the ownership costs. Insurance came around again, so that was another 200 quid around about this time last year. Wiper motor failed. A common problem in this, I will know, it went back to SE Jags. Getting the wiper motor fully refurbished and refitted and all some associated bits with that cost around £500. And then we decided it was going to go in for this dodgy injector, this running issue where it wasn't pulling quite right for the revs. We investigated that was an injector issue, which kind of started off the whole catalyst of events that we've covered throughout this year. However, I decided that you know, in for a penny, in for a pound, I didn't want the car to come back running like a dream and still looking how it did. I wasn't quite happy with some aspects. So I managed to deal with the original owner who I bought the car from, and he still had these XJ40 wheels, albeit they needed refurbing. I think about 600 quid for the wheels and the other parts. And then getting the wheels refurbed and new tyres, etc., was about £700. And this is where it starts to get a bit more interesting. The top end overhaul, which, as I mentioned, included almost pretty much everything from the inlets upwards, including the distributor and what have you. You know, a lot has gone in there, and I've covered that already. That was the best part of £4,000. There is VAT to consider on there, so adds 20%, adds a lump to it, but nevertheless that was nearly £4,000 of expenditure, and that was only part one of the overhaul, because as you'll see from the previous videos this year, things didn't go all to plan, and we also ended up replacing further parts. We replaced the tank, the fuel tank, the catch tank, some fuel lines, some more fuel hoses, some fuel pressure regulators. It went on and on. That was a further £1,675 or thereabouts, so you know, almost another two. So we're looking at 4 or 5. We're probably looking at in the order of about £6,000 worth of expenditure on the overhaul that I've done this year, which was not necessarily budgeted for, shall we say, and has brought up the question of, when I said in my last video, whether I'll be able to keep this car or not, because that was a bit of a sting in the tail, but it was necessary. The car seems in very, very good shape now mechanically, and it runs really well. However, I just, you know, I was unsure as to whether I could continue to own a car that might spring up these kind of expenses in the future. But for now, at least, you know, I'm not going to be using it much over the winter. Andrew said he's going to be able to store it for me inside, so he's going to keep it for me down at SE Jags. We're going to get a few other little bits tweaking, and I'm going to see if I can make a plan, because I do really want to keep this car. And the feeling I get as well from you, the viewers, is that you love this car, you want to see it, and you want to see the story continue. So I'm going to see if I can make that happen. It brings us to a total of just a shade under £8,000. So my maintenance and running costs for this car over the last year has been just under £8,000. If you put that together with the cost of the previous year, basically it's cost me another £10,000 to own this car for 2 years. So it cost me 10 grand to start with, it's cost me another 10 to own and run it. That doesn't include the cost of fuel and other incidentals as well. So, you know, the car stands me in 2 years in at just, you know, if we took everything into consideration, probably about £21,000, which, as it stands, as special as this car is to me, I'm not sure in the marketplace I would be able to sell it for that much. So if I sold the car now, I'm going to be looking at taking a hit on the car. Not that the car is an outright investment, but I did buy it on the basis that it should at least hold its value and may increase in value in the future. So that was kind of my justification to myself and the missus as well. But as it stands, I'm in a bit of a hole for it. So there we go. So there's a roundup of the expenses and the ownership costs that have gone into this car. And I would just say, in a complete backtrack from my very first video where I said, you know, I'm sure you can own one of these cars and it doesn't have to cost very much, is that that should very much come with a very clear warning that it can equally be quite more expensive than you anticipate it to. Anyway, that's a little roundup of that. Let's take the car out for a drive and we can really see what the changes are all about. So my first impressions when I picked the car up from Andrew and drove it home, which is pretty much town driving, and I can confirm sort of driving around town, the car feels far happier than it used to. It seems to drive through the lower gears really easily and really nicely. It seems to sit in traffic very well, behave itself. The temperature gauge isn't going up. It stopped doing the hunting and idling it was doing. So mechanically it seems to be running really sweet. It's really nice that I can feel I can just jump in it, start her up and take her out, and I've got no concerns in doing that from a mechanical point of view at all. Even if I'm just going to be running to the supermarket to do a shop, not that I would really do that in this car, or if I want to take it out for a more significant ride. So that's good. The suspension in this car around town feels slightly bouncy. You may even be able to pick it up on the camera. I don't know why. I think whether it's the bushing, because it's had poly bushes fitted in the past, or whether it's just the firmness of the dampers, because I haven't really played with them. They're probably quite firm. It's just a little bit on the firm side, a little bit bouncy. However, when you get it out on the open roads, it seems to ride much better. There's you know, the suspension feels very supple. It handles well. Right, this is no sports car, but I think for what it is, it handles really well, and I enjoy the ride. Another observation I make, particularly around town, is you really notice how low down you feel in this car. It often looks like quite a big car, and Jaguars are quite thought of as quite big, grand cars. But when you sit in this car, the outside world definitely seems like a very big and daunting place. And especially when you come up against sort of regular, sort of quite smaller cars, you can notice how much bigger cars are these days, and that this is definitely from a different era where packaging was done differently. And this long bonnet as well, when you're trying to navigate some suburban streets where cars are parked right up to the corners, which they are around here, sticking your nose out can be something of a daunting task in itself as well, because you can't see to the end of this bonnet completely. Going around corners, you know, it's not ideal. So let's get it out to some more enjoyable roads now, and we'll have a closer look at some of the other aspects that have been changed. Well, as I've said, this car is all about the open road, and this is probably where the biggest difference I've noticed since getting the car back is. And we're about to find out, because I've travelled out a little bit to some slightly better, more open roads where I can demonstrate this a bit more, and we can see how this, when you open up the V12, this car really does sing. Now when I accelerate, second gear, it'll go all the way around to 6,000 without any problem. The difference is before, because it's got the original final drive in this, the gears are still very long. This is designed for a 3-speed automatic gearbox, and we've now got a 5-speed manual gearbox in here. So what that means is it needs an awful lot of power to really pull it through the rev range quickly and make it feel like a performance car and really get the most out of this engine. But since I've had all the work done and now the car's absolutely on song, I can pull it through second and third gear and it will go all the way round to 6,500 revs without question, and it feels really strong doing so. And this car really does get a move on when you get up into the rev range. What you find about this car is that it's actually above 4,000 revs is where it really is making all the magic happen. From a handling point of view, like I said, we're on a B road now, and not only is it glorious to open up, also when you get to the bends, these sort of longer sweeping bends on roads like this, the car feels just absolutely at home. The ride feels so much better, it doesn't feel crashy. Like I said, around town I think it's a bit too firm, but I can live with that because this is really where I want to be using this car, is out on roads like this. And out here is an absolute joy. I took the family away on a weekend already. We went, all four of us, and luggage in the boot, on about 160-mile round trip, and the car was absolutely fine. I had no complaints from anyone, other than there is a slight smell of petrol that gets into the cabin, which needs looking into, but certainly not a worrying level, but it's something I'm concerned of, and we'll have spoken to Andrew about already, and we're going to look into to see where those fumes are getting into the car. But other than that, you know, it's a very civilized place to be. It's comfortable. The car can handle the bends really well. It can travel sort of in, you know, the lower speeds, no problem. Gets to the open roads or a dual carriageway or a motorway, handles it all in stride. It's a very good all-rounder car now. It's a good GT car. I'd be comfortable taking it on a longer journey, and it's also enjoyable to drive around some British B roads, and dare I say it, maybe this would even be okay on the track. And I wonder whether, just for the sake of it, I am intrigued to know what this would go like around the track now. So watch this space. Maybe next year we'll see what we can do on that, and if that is actually something that's going to be viable. So in conclusion and summary, I think it's fair to say that I'm very happy with the work that's been done on this car. It has been at a cost, but now the car really feels like it's you know, like it's there in terms of something I can get in and I can use and can be enjoyed on whatever the occasion I'm taking it, whether it be down the motorway on a longer run, or whether it's to take it out on the B roads for a bit of a blast, or even if I'm just driving it around town. Now, I must say that I'm also going to be taking the car off the road for a couple of months while we work through a few other little niggles and some cosmetic bits that I've mentioned before over the winter months. And between now and then, I'm really not too sure what other content I'm going to be doing. So if you don't hear me hear anything more for a while on YouTube, you can always follow me on my Instagram, where I will be doing some more regular updates. It's the same handle, at Jimbo's Driveway on Instagram. You can follow what I keep up to on there. But for now, that's it. So I think you should definitely like this video. If you have, you should hit the bell button so you get a notification the next time there is a video available. And other than that, I really hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you again very soon. Take care for now. Bye bye.